recording. Hi there.
Cool.
My name is David Batsoffen, and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. And at the moment, I'm doing a series called In Conversation With. And today, I'm in conversation with none other than one. It's David against Goliath today. It's Donovan Goliath. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Here's something to kick this off. Did you know that my second name is David?
Well, now it's David squared. That's even more confusing.
There we go. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is we chatted just before David hit record, and I can guarantee you his voice was not as expensive as it is right now. Once you hit record, I don't know where this voice came from. Hi there, it's David. Oh, okay. It's that kind of show then. Okay, I feel like I'm on the Money Talk, David.
26 years worth of radio work, Donovan. It's unintentional, but it just happens. You know what it's like. It's when the lights on the camera come on, or you step up to the microphone, things change.
Bam.
But normally I'm not outed on my own show by my guest.
I just had to. This is a different person interviewing me now. Love it. It was clean.
Fair enough. Tell us a bit about yourself, and let's talk through the timeline, because I think a lot of people, not only in Johannesburg, but countrywide, know of the Goliaths and know of your path through comedy and the other various aspects of the industry that you found yourselves in.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with me. I moved to Johannesburg. I'm from Umtata in the Eastern Cape.
Yay! I'm from Port Elizabeth.
Ah, there we go. There was a reason I said yes to this conversation. I knew there was something about you. So I'm from Umtata. I actually studied in Port Elizabeth back then when it was still PE Tech. I studied art and design and then moved to Joburg.
Can I stop you there? PE Tech. Did you go to the campus that was out near the university?
Yes, I did.
And I raised my hand to that as well. I did electrical engineering there for a year.
Well, there we go.
Hated every
minute. I was at that campus. Really? No, I loved it. I loved what I studied. And then I got a job in Joburg. I moved here. I worked in advertising for 7 years. And I went to watch a comedy show one day, and John Flismus was on that lineup. Ndumiso Lindy. There was a guy called Tolas Mo on that lineup as well. And I'd never been to comedy before. I'd never watched comedy. I've never wanted to do comedy ever. And I'm watching these guys perform, and I was just so in awe, especially with Tolas Mo. This is an incredible storyteller, so detailed, so vivid, so much energy. Just telling stories about his life, Audience was dying. So I'm watching this and I'm like, man, this is some other kind of superpower, I would love to do this, because being in advertising, I was writing funny concepts for other people to perform. So you'd give it to an actor, to a voice artist or whatever, and I just kind of direct them, and it's so weird. I never, sat and went, I'd like to do that one day. But it was in that moment watching Tolas Mo perform where I was like, I've got some funny stories to tell and I want to own it. I don't want to give it to somebody else to get the glory for. I'm going to give this a shot, So I wrote my first 5-minute set, which was predominantly just about where I'm from, growing up in Umtata, speaking Xhosa, all of these things. And I booked a spot at Cool Runnings, the Underground, the institution.
It was indeed.
And it took about 2 months to get on that lineup because there weren't a lot of gigs, floating around during that time. This was back in 2011. And I did my set, 5 minutes, and people seemed to love it. And there was another comedian there, Grant Willie Wilson, who told me that he runs another gig also in Melville on Mondays. Would I like to come through? I went to that gig, did 5 minutes there. David Kibuka was there at that gig, and he said that he hosts a gig at the Blues Room every Tuesday. If I want to pop by and do 5 minutes at the Blues Room, I can come through. So I had 3 gigs in succession, in my first week of doing this thing. And man, when the bug bites, like, it's a very difficult thing to explain to people. And that's what makes this thing so addictive, is you throw your ridiculous thoughts out to this group of strangers, and then this roar of laughter comes back. What you intended, because it's like fishing. You never know if you're going to get them
Yeah.
or not. And then when it does come back, it just gives you some other kind of energy that you can't explain, and that just fuels you to keep going, you know. There's nothing better than seeing a comedian just riding that wave for however long they're on stage and absolutely murdering it, so much so that the audience, you know, when you look at them and they're like, please, can you stop, you know, we can't breathe anymore, we just need time. And that feeling was fantastic, man. And you know, I'd keep doing this for about 3 or 4 months or so till I resigned. I thought I'd freelance a little bit as a freelance designer, you know how it goes, and do comedy on the side. And I then met Jason and Nicholas Goliath, who had also just started doing comedy. And they'll, you know, when you chat to them one day, they'll tell you how they started. It was just they call it this is a drunken conversation. You know, Nicholas said to Jason the one day they had some beers or whatever it was. Hey man, I'm gonna call and book 5 minutes for both of us. Let's see if we can try this comedy thing. So Jason, she's nonchalant, she just says, yeah, fine, whatever. A week later, it tells him, oh, by the way, that thing's sorted. We're doing this. So like thrown into it. Yes, you know, and then they jump in and they do this thing. And I was there the day that they did their first set, and we met on stage, you know, and, you know, we just started chatting, and there was an immediate connection apart from our surname, you know. A lot of people think we're related, but we're not at all. Jason and Nicholas are cousins.
Yeah.
So we're not related. It was pure coincidence. And we just hit it off, and we started chatting. And Goliath started because, you know, at the time we realized that there weren't, because Cool Runnings had also just, nobody knew this. It just kind of ended suddenly.
It did.
Right? So,
one week it was there, the next week it was gone.
Exactly. And I performed on that last show, you know, and then I performed on that Sunday. And then in that week, we all got this message to say that was it. It's all gone, over. You know?
Yeah.
And so then we realized that, man, you know, this was probably the best place to perform at. There were a couple of gigs here and there, and we very early on realized that, you know, we're gonna have to create these opportunities if we want to jump on stage. Like, you can't wait for 2-3 months if you're a young guy wanting to do this. It just doesn't make sense. You know, you only get better when you're constantly jumping on stage and performing. So we formulated a company, I guess. You know, we sat and we came up with this name. We formulated, I designed the logo. And
well, you're a designer. What else are you meant to do?
Exactly.
Can I hold you there a second,
the
Donovan?
logo, we super professional. I said to the guys, look, man, we're not. Yep.
Let me just hold you there a second and go back to that very first 5 minutes that you did. Do you remember any of the gag? Did you tell us? You said you spoke about yourself. So you were telling a story. You weren't getting up there and saying sort of a rabbi, a priest, and a minister walked into a bar type of thing.
Yeah. No, I just told a story. I told a story about where I'm from. You know, growing up in Umtad, like I was a lot whiter than this. I had blonde hair, and you know, I went to a 99.9% Xhosa school, and then there was me. You know, so I spoke about those experiences walking into school, and people looking at me going, This is a bit odd, you know. I do a lot of impressions, you know, that's one of my things. And that was the first time I'd done, I do this Jason Statham impression. And the gag was because at my school, I'd catch taxis to school and back. So I thought of this concept where I was like, Jason Statham he's like a glorified taxi driver, you know, he transports people and packages around for money. That's what he does. And so I was like, imagine Jason Statham as a taxi driver in South Africa. What would that be like? And I recreated this entire scenario, you know, and that was the one gag I think that, you know, a lot of people kind of gravitated towards because it was so out of nowhere. They thought the impression was good, I guess. And, you know, I realized, okay, that's probably my thing, you know, because you need a differentiator in this game. Like, you need something that people keep going, oh, that guy, we know what we're going to get from him. So that became my thing. I realized that I enjoy doing a lot of characters on stage. You know, it's very character driven. I often don't even speak in my own voice. If I'm going to tell a story, for example, and this is probably where the advertising thing comes from. You know, when you're writing scripts, you put in as much detail as possible. So whoever is reading this, you know,
knows exactly
pretty
what
much
you
gets
want.
inside of your head and knows what you're thinking. And that's how I wrote my first set. So a lot of the gags were actually a little bit too long because I tried to put everything in, you know, so it took a little too long to get to the punchline. I had about 3 gags, I think, in that first 5 minutes, but it really went well. You know, it surprised a lot of people. I was pretty confident, you know. I wasn't that nervous comedian. And I think this came from being in advertising, and, you know, you walk into boardrooms and you've got to sell these big concepts, but you don't just go, okay, so there's a guy who walks into the room. No. You're up there on your feet and you're playing this thing out to the client who you're asking to hand over 5 million rand because you need to shoot this big TV commercial, you know? So I guess that's where it came from. You know, I was so used to doing that and being put under this immense pressure that it actually went really well. Strangely enough, I think where it started going bad was maybe like about a year in or so, when, you know, you start getting a lot of good hits. Like, I mean, I didn't say that I was having a lot of deaths, you know, in between that, but where there was just constant deaths in succession, and not necessarily deaths, but I think where I wasn't getting the notes that I wanted to get, those high notes just weren't hitting as hard, is when you start thinking that, cool, this is it, you know, like this is all that you need to keep writing. This is the level that you need to play at. And that's not it, you know. This is, every single day is a new day. Every audience is different. You're constantly being put in situations where you just go like, why would anybody even choose to ask me to perform at a strip club, for example, you know? Like, this makes no sense. I mean, we would go to Carnival City and perform Joe Parker at a gig at Carnival City, and we'd have to perform after this burlesque show. So you've got all these drunk people at Carnival City watching this burlesque show, and then it ends. They're all sad that it's ended, and then this host comes out and says, "Oh, okay, cool. Now we've got some comedy." People are angry. I know, we want to see no comedy, and you'd have to go and perform, you know.
And then it's a tough room. Then it becomes combat comedy because they want the burlesque back.
You're fighting now.
And you're fighting, and also they've had enough to drink that they think they know the answers to, or they know your punchlines, and they want to get in on the act, and they want to be part of it, and then it becomes confrontational.
And you know,
almost.
It does, man. And I'm a very clean comic, you know. Like, I'm like a nice guy on stage. Like, I'm not confrontational at all. I'm not gonna like bash you, because a lot of that audience actually likes that, you know, when you are like Jason Goliath is amazing at that, you know, like he gets them immediately. Just wade into them. That was his strength from the get-go. He wasn't afraid. And also his material is just so like, you know, he doesn't hold back on what he says, which is fantastic. You know, and he got them very, very quickly. Me, not so much. And
and then not you either, by the sounds of things.
Oof. But
you know, you were saying earlier, Donovan,
that was very, very tough.
If I just piggyback on what you were saying earlier about the highs, those highs are extreme. And if you're having a good set, you get to a point where you can virtually read them the phone book and they will laugh at you. But on the other hand, you get to a point where they don't understand you and you're dying on stage. And then all you want to do is say, thank you, I get paid whether you laugh or not, and I'm out of here. And then you don't even stay for a drink. You leave the stage, you leave the venue, you leave the parking lot, in that order. It's often.
Look, it's like when I started this conversation and I spoke roar of laughter that you throwing out these thoughts, you get this roar of, and fantastic. You can't describe that feeling. I think that is also a feeling that you can't describe. There is absolutely nothing worse than dying There's nothing worse than dropping a joke and seeing the audience look at you and go, nope.
Nope.
Because if you've got nothing else to pull from after that.
But also if you in a different...
One of the worst, my worst death ever actually was
Yeah.
in Botswana. And I'd gone to Botswana before, a week before this gig actually, and I'd hosted their version of the Lurie Awards, and I did a set as well, and it was fantastic. And somebody saw me doing this set there, and they loved it, so they booked me for a corporate gig the next weekend. Flew back to South Africa, got the call to say, "Oh, we want you back." I flew back, and I guess I started telling the story, and then we veered off where I spoke about, when you just come off the gas just a little bit and you think that you've got this, and life comes at you very fast. It was this gig, and I got there and they told me, cool, it's in Botswana, there are about 300 or 400 guys, and yeah, you should love it. So I go, no problem, got this. They asked me to do 45 minutes. Realistically, I only had about 20 minutes, which was good. The rest was just kind of fluff. It was neither here nor there. And I'm sitting in the room we're supposed to be in. It's a massive room, and it's not the audience I'm expecting, because they told me, yes, it's in Botswana. That's all they said. The door opens, and it's all of these like Afrikaans farmers, which they were. Farmers from Botswana, Zim, South Africa, Swaziland, all of these places, and they were having a massive convention. But they had been playing golf all day, and they'd been drinking the entire day. So they walked in there loud and just ready to keep drinking some more. I sat in the corner and I could feel all the gags disappearing. As I looked around the room, I'm like, none of the stuff I'm about to say to you guys is going to land. The MC goes on and he brings me on, but like with this, it's like he had written this for the Queen, this incredibly long speech before he brought me on. I'm like, I haven't even done some of the things that you're speaking about. He's just making this up, So the audience is going, oh gosh, who do we have? Is it Jimmy Carr? Is it Jerry Seinfeld? Based on what this man is saying. And
then you step up.
Yeah, then I step up, like he basically tells people that I've toured all over the world, sold out shows. They're very lucky to have me in this room. Oh man, I walked onto that tiny little stage and I start, so everybody's staring at me. These guys are drunk, and start doing my thing. And the first gag I throw out doesn't land. Oof. I fluff. Second gag I throw out, that doesn't land. So now, every comedian has got that gag that you can pull out. That's like your parachute gag right there. Yeah. That's the one that, but I was reserving this one for 20 minutes in. I'm 3 minutes in and I'm already dying, Like I can't pull the safety net out now, man.
Not yet.
Anyway, I do that. I drop the safety net because I just need to win them over.
Yeah.
That doesn't land. God, now I am sinking. Everybody starts talking loud. This one guy jumps up and basically tells me, I'm not even going to use the profanity used. You're wasting our time. Effing this and effing that. Just get off the effing stage. You blah, 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 blah. And they had all paid, I think, 10,000 Rand a table. So it was a big like charity thing.
Yeah.
And I was the special guest that they were getting. So they were pissed off that they all paid 10,000 Rand for this table for me. So I got up to about 7 minutes and I apologized. I dropped the mic and I left, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Then the MC comes back on and goes, no, guys, come on, let's give him another chance. I was like, no other chance. No, I'm not going back on. Then they just clapped louder so I could keep walking off. They just did not want me back on stage. Oh man, that cut me so deep. It took me a very long time to recover, about 3 months before I was confident again. Yeah, that broke me.
That is scary.
Completely.
And I can empathize. People don't realize, you mentioned your first 5 minutes and people go, 5 minutes, that's easy. It's not. 5 minutes is can be hours, it can be days. As you say, if it's working, gone like that. If it's not, that 5 minutes is your entire life up until that point.
That 5 minutes feels like when you're planking, because that's what planking feels like. You try and do a 1 minute plank. A 1 minute plank feels like an hour. That's what 5 minutes on stage feels like when you're dying. Like you just don't understand. Like your mouth gets dry. It's like your bodily functions, everything just stops working. And the weird thing is, what people don't realize is comedians are so strange. So you'll have a room of people are dying, but there's one person who's got their arms folded and they're just not loving it. You gravitate towards that person.
Tell me about it.
And it will throw your entire routine out completely. I have no idea why that happens and where that comes from.
No, I hear what you're saying. But you know, often the funniest thing, Donovan, is that person will come to you afterwards and go, I loved your set. And you go, then what are you doing? Show me your happy face.
It happens so often. It happens so often. And you just don't understand, man. Like, you just don't understand. Why
did they come in the first place? You know, if you're going to be miserable, face the back of the room so we can't see you. But you're right. It can be, you can play to 3,500 people, and I have at Carnival City. And there's always one that's done exactly that. And I happened to pick on him because he was doing exactly that. And it turned out he was my sister-in-law's boss, unbeknown to me. So when he walked into the office on Monday, he said, you're not going to believe what happened to me this weekend.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
It was a lot of please explaining at the next family meal as to why I'd picked on him.
But even that, you know, like, just speaking of hecklers and, you know, like, I never understand. There's always a person in the room or a group of people in the room who insist on sitting in front, and they try and make your life as difficult as possible on stage. So they heckle. So you get the hecklers, but then you also get the people who kind of respond to everything you're saying. And then you tell them, hey, man, it's not that kind of show. Like, listen to what I'm saying. Then they get pissed off at you, you know, for not.
This is not a debate, people. I'm here to talk to you. You listen and you laugh. You don't respond. It's like sending WhatsApps. It gets to a point where you don't have, somebody says to you, how are you? Fine, thank you. And you, I'm well, thanks. That's where the conversation ends. You don't necessarily have to continue, but these people want to take it that X step further. And then it drives you mad.
You know, one of the best put downs, if you'll excuse the pun, I've ever seen. I won't say who the comedian is, because he doesn't like being spoken about. He doesn't like this particular moment being spoken about. It was in Greenside. I can tell you that much. It was at this gig. It was a bar, very, very intimate. He's on stage, tiny little stage, and there's a guy in the front row who is just like a big guy. He is just not letting up. Every comic that comes on, he's just constantly throwing something out. It's so annoying, you know. So there's a lot of young guys that are coming on first, so they're not saying anything. The host is this other comedian I'm talking about, who's also a big dude, comes back up and says, dude, like, can you just let this go? So he starts doing that very irritating thing where he starts mimicking everything he's saying, you know? And it gets so annoying. And we're like, everybody's sitting there going, dude, like, even the audience is like, dude, can we just watch the show? And it just keeps going. So eventually this comedian says, why don't you come and say that on stage? So the guy gets up and he goes on stage and he says it to his face. The comedian grabs him by the head, puts him between his legs, and power slams him. You know, the wrestling move on stage, breaks the stage, microphone goes flying everywhere. This guy's passed out, but then the audience turns on the comedian and goes, oh, what the hell, bro? Like, why? Show done. I didn't even go on stage. Show done. That was it.
No, but I can't say I've ever been in the presence of somebody who's done that much. I think my favorite put down, and again, like you, I won't mention the comedian. He said to the person, "You're the reason that some animals eat their young," which I thought was a very clever um, uh, retort to a rather stupid heckle. Um, but we've sort of gone off track, as one tends to do when you're talking comedy and things. You're doing online comedy at the moment, aren't you? I know we've skipped past Melville and past the box and all of those sort of things, but are you guys not doing stuff on a daily basis now on Zoom?
So what we've got a talk show. We're actually up to our 82nd episode today.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, so we started very early on, and we've been reluctant to do the online comedy thing because the nature of it is quite scary. We did a show about 2 weeks ago now, where it was the three of us. So I don't think you're going to find any one of us doing it alone. Because it's so awkward, man. You know what it is for me? Like, there's some guys who can do it and some guys who've done it very well. Sculpt Poseidon Note, I think, has just been killing it at the moment with that stuff. It's just not fun for me, because I enjoy the interaction with the audience. I enjoy seeing their faces. This is just so weird, And my gags, like I said before, they require me to get into character and to move around the stage. It's all these characters, and I move a lot on stage. I'm very energetic, So now I'm like fixed in one position, and
would you like to run around the room
so
quickly,
awkward,
Donovan?
So we've been trying to find alternative ways to make people laugh. Yeah. We've been finding alternative ways to entertain people, and that's been going well. I've been bringing a lot of my design skills, I guess, and just doing some interesting stuff on Instagram, doing a lot of sketch-based things, quick little clips here and there, because people are online a lot right now and consuming a lot of content. So I'm just kind of riding that wave while we can, till we can go back, and we're not anticipating going back for at least another year till people are super comfortable, so
this is it. It's all well and good, our president saying we can open up the restaurants and the bars and the theaters and the cinemas and auction houses. I don't quite understand why you would want to go to an auction, but nevertheless, be that as it may, he opened that on this weekend. But who from theater management, and you guys are involved, so if you've got a 300-seater, to only put 50 people in that, it doesn't pay you. It really and truly doesn't. You can't make the money to pay the artists, to pay the rent, to pay the techies. You may as well just continue to do what you're doing. And in a year's time, or whenever, as you say, when people feel comfortable to sit in the same room as other people and breathe that air for an hour or an hour and a half, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
It's going to happen with an audience that you don't want. All those non-maskers that you don't really want in the audience, who don't care. Yeah.
Shucks, man. It really, what a curveball, because there was absolutely no warning, I guess, for everybody. Because we're speaking about comedy now, there are a lot of guys who solely rely on this as this is their job, this is their income, and you take that away from them.
But if you extrapolate comedy to wrestling, for instance, because wrestling is comedy, it's just guys in tight pants. The WWF or WWE, whatever they call it at the moment, are still fighting, but they've now got screens up. There's no audience. All the commentators are everybody outside the ring is wearing masks, and they've got to perform with no audience response, which you were saying for your comedy, you need that interaction, as do they. They're going through all the moves, and there's one person in the back going like, yay, it's no fun.
No, it's not fun.
It's the camera guys, and that's it.
Because now it feels like work.
It does.
Now it's just work, Oh, I'm coming to get beat up again.
Yeah, Donovan, I know that you've got somewhere else to be, and I'm watching the time. If people want to find out what you guys are doing, how do they find out about your talk show?
So you can follow any one of us on any of our platforms.
Okay.
So Donovan Goliath, Jason Goliath, Nicholas Goliath, or follow Goliath and Goliath on Facebook. We broadcast through Facebook or through Skyroom Live. So please go and check that out.
Okay.
It's been a lot of fun. So basically, what it is, it's the three of us. You know, the first 10 minutes is chatting about, you know, what we've been doing in our respective homes, you know, how
Right.
lockdown is treating us, et cetera, et cetera. And then we always have a very, very interesting guest, you know, for the next 20 minutes. We kind of, whoever it is, it doesn't matter who it is, we'll chat about what they do for 5 minutes, and then we just break away with ridiculous questions, things that we've always wanted to know about you, but interviewers have always been too scared to ask. And then we always ended off on just rapid fire questions. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of laughs. It's so unexpected.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really
And
what it is.
what time does it go out live?
Live every single day, Monday to Friday. We started off doing Monday to Sunday for like the first 40 episodes or so. But oh man, I can't tell you how that killed us. Look, it's half an hour, but it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah. And what time does it go out?
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock every day.
All right.
Yeah.
Donovan, I'm going to leave it there. It's been an absolute guest talking to you. This has been In Conversation with Donovan Goliath has been my guest. Go and have a look at what he does. He, Nicholas and Jason, between 2 and 2:30 every day, Monday to Friday. Donovan, once again, thanks for being with me on In Conversation with.
Thank you, sir.